If you're a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, then you know that things can get pretty complicated in this cinematic world. The new Fast and Furious 9 trailer proved this by focusing on impossible action and a major reveal that fan-favorite character Han Solo is still very much alive. But how is this possible? Han seemed like a goner after he was unable to escape from a fiery car crash. Well, not to worry, because the Fast and Furious films have been known to make some crazy twists and turns work out in their favor. And we've got a couple of theories as to how Han is making his big return in Fast and Furious 9. The Fast and Furious franchise is no stranger to ridiculous stunts, impossible action, crazy storylines, and every once in a while, a character that defies the odds and returns from beyond the grave. This seems to be the case with the upcoming film in the franchise, Fast and Furious 9. The trailer is packed full of action and leaves many questions yet to be answered. But the most shocking moment and the biggest mystery that has yet to be revealed is how Han Lu is back. Near the end of the trailer, Han walks in on Dom and the crew like he hasn't even been injured, eager to team up again for the team's next daring adventure. But how is Han still alive? We last saw him trapped in a vehicle just before it exploded. And then Dom and the family spent an emotional period of time mourning his loss at the end of Fast and the Furious 7. So, what gives? Well, Han Lu is no stranger to untimely demise. The character, played by actor Sung Kang, originally met his end in the franchise's third movie, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. In the film, he gets into a brutal car crash that ends with his vehicle exploding in a ball of flames. But Han proved to be too popular among fans to be removed from the series that quickly. Thanks to some timeline shifting, he returned in future installments. This worked, because the next 3 films, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6, were actually prequels to Tokyo Drift, taking place between the events of the second and third film. The circumstances of Han's demise seemed pretty definitive at the time. During a car chase, his car was T-boned and flipped. Sean ran over to help, only to see Han trapped in his seat for a moment before the car exploded. And that was that. In Fast and Furious 6, Han is saved in the climactic battle by Gal Gadot's Giselle, which led to Han deciding to go to Tokyo. We all know that this signified that the films had just about reached the Tokyo Drift timeline. And sure enough, Han wouldn't appear in the 7th or 8th installments of the series. But the mid-credits teaser for Fast and Furious 6 did give us a hint as to what had happened to Han, revealing that it wasn't an accident, and that the person who crashed into Han was Jason Statham's character Deckard Shaw, who was the brother of F6's villain, Owen Shaw. Owen was seriously injured by Dom and his crew, so Deckard was seeking revenge. By the end of Fast and Furious 7, Deckard was imprisoned and justice was served, seemingly putting this plot point to bed. Once the timelines did catch up with one another, a touching funeral was held for Han in Fast and Furious 7, after Dom collected his friend's remains from Tokyo. But Dom being able to collect Han's body doesn't seem likely now that we've seen the Fast and Furious 9 trailer. When Han walks into his crew's headquarters, everyone seems to be pretty shocked except for Letty, which is appropriate given that she also once returned to the series after everyone thought she lost her life in an explosion. So how is Han still alive? Here's our first theory. Never underestimate the power of a simple retcon. Lenny did it in the 4th film. She was seemingly eliminated off screen, but she returned in the 6th film with a bad case of amnesia. While the original cut of Han's accident in Tokyo Drift seems to clearly show him being in the car when it blew up, it would be easy enough for the writers to have him conveniently wiggle out of the car and get far enough away from the explosion that it wouldn't end his life. But of course, he would be pretty badly injured, which might explain why he was absent for 2 films. It would still be pretty monumental for him to show up in Fast and Furious 9 looking as good as new, but we're sure that his whereabouts after the accident are going to explain how he could have possibly recovered from such a huge accident. It's also possible that Han decided to fake the whole thing. Well, it's very unlikely that he planned the car crash, but he might have taken what was dealt to him and used the opportunity to go underground to escape Deckard Shaw's wrath. But either case means that it's likely Han needed some help to escape the wreckage and recover. We think that F9 will reveal a new or old character who found Han and helped him get over the traumas of the accident. Perhaps he was only laying low for so long because he wasn't healthy enough to return to the real world, especially if someone was hunting him in the name of revenge. Perhaps it's Letty who helped him out, since she seems pretty unfazed by his sudden return. The second theory seems far-fetched if you look at the main Fast and Furious films, but some recent developments in the universe make something crazy like resurrection seem like a possible theory. The Fast and Furious Furious franchise recently released a pretty successful spin-off movie called Hobbs & Shaw. The film features Jason Statham as Deckard Shaw and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Luke Hobbs. The villain of this film just happens to be a character who came back from beyond the grave after being eliminated by Deckard Shaw. Brixton Lore was a former MI6 agent who joined a terrorist organization called Etion. After Deckard dealt with him, Etion recovered his body and used some highly advanced technology to give him cybernetic limbs and other enhancements, basically bringing him back to life because he wouldn't have survived without all of those biological enhancements. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for the Fast and Furious franchise, including the possibility that Etion might have brought Han back. This could explain why Dom was able to collect his remains. Perhaps there were pieces left to collect, if only some of his body was saved to create the new cybernetic version. Etion could be directly involved with Han's resurrection because they might want him to help them get revenge on Shaw. They did bring back one of his victims before, so we wouldn't put it past them to try to do it again. Even if Etion is not directly involved in Fast and Furious 9, we now know that this type of technology exists in the Fast and Furious universe, and it's entirely possible that another group with similar advancements may have wanted to keep Han around for some reason. Han appears to be pretty normal in his brief appearance in the trailer, but we wouldn't put it past the Fast franchise to mainstream some of these technological possibilities so that they can be used in different places throughout the future films. Though Fast and Furious fans have been demanding justice for Han since his original demise in Tokyo Drift, and are presumably pretty happy about his return, the whole thing still needs to be handled well and in a way that makes sense, at least in the Fast and Furious world. The loss of Han carried a huge amount of emotional weight for Dom and the rest of the crew, so his resurrection deserves a lot of special attention by the writers, director, and the studio. Han shouldn't come back if all the progress that the story has made because of him is completely erased. Another worry that fans have is that Deckard Shaw is portrayed as a kind of anti-hero in Hobbs & Shaw. How can the franchise reconcile the huge rift between the Fast and Furious crew and Shaw after he was responsible for the loss of one of their friends? This was a question before Han's reappearance and is still valid now, given that Han might want to exact some revenge of his own on Shaw. No matter where Han has been for the past few films, it's safe to say that his world has been completely changed by Deckard Shaw's actions. And we wouldn't blame him for not being very forgiving. Well, we can help put some of those worries to rest. Director Justin Lin wants to assure fans that Han is in good hands, and that him coming back will make a lot of sense. Lin told MTV that Han is a very special character to me. He's been a kind of special character throughout, and when I left Fast and Furious 6, we kind of left together. For his return, Lin promises that it will be all connected, and that in the Fast universe, everything happens for a reason. These reasons might be pretty out there at times, but we think Lin is the right person to make these reasons make sense in the context of Fast and the Furious universe. In fact, one of the reasons Lin wanted to come back to direct was the opportunity to bring Han back. He was inspired by the questions fans had about Han's passing and confusion surrounding how and why the film had decided to go that route. The Justice for Han hashtag has inspired Lin just as much as the fans, with Lin saying that it really kind of got in my head and inspired me that if we're gonna continue, we should have justice for Han. Plus, it makes total sense that Lin would be the one to bring Han back. This whole justice thing seems to be a pretty big focus for the new film. The final tagline at the end of the trailer reads, "Justice is coming." Does this mean that Han will be getting justice against Deckard Shaw? Or is it just a nice nod to fans of the character who have been patiently waiting for him to make a triumphant return? While casual fans may not be so sure what kind of justice we can expect, fans who followed the Justice for Han debacle are probably excited at the idea of Han playing a major role in the upcoming film. The film will be released in May 2020, so we've still got a few months to think on it. And I'm sure a few more surprising trailers to come that will reveal even more of what we can look forward to. But for now, we're just excited that Han Solo is going to finally get that justice that he deserves, and that we're going to get to see him on the big screen at least one more time. So, do you agree with any of our fan theories? How are you hoping the film explains Han's return? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more.